where we have the headline as why flight that was doomed to, was it doomed from the start? And as you can see, well, this is a flight that was supposed to take 1 hour, basically 1 hour, but ended up taking 43 hours with 10 people on board and unfortunately no survivors after the crash. So Zinzi, to you in regards to basically just looking at what happened.
All right, thank you, Michael. Now, the thing is, I'm glad that we have Honorable Tindi Mwale, who is here, because by profession, he is an aeronautical engineer, and he has worked with an aeronautical engineer at Mission Aviation Fellowship at Wilson Airport. Mheshimiwa, it's good to have you here. This is such a sad story that has put a cloud over the nation. And what we are learning is that the latest, apart from now the craft being found and the dead bodies, is that the flight was diverted. Professionally speaking, what does it have? What constitutes for a flight to be directed from its normal path, for it to take a different path?
First of all, thank you very much. First of all, I want to start by condoning with the families that lost their beloved ones. Secondly, I want to say that the type of aircraft, the Cessna C208, it's a single engine, turboprop aircraft. It has an engine at the nose, and therefore it has a very big problem flying during bad weather. And you see Wilson Airport closes at 6 p.m. So they diverted the flight to JKIA because when they estimated the time of landing, they discovered that Wilson Airport will have already closed. So they diverted to JKIA. But nevertheless, Badea mountains, they are very, very bad when it comes to weather in the evening. And therefore, I believe that the aircraft lost control because of avionic systems that failed to give the clear signal to the pilot.
Would there have been a better route, a better option?
Of course, the better option would have been that the pilot would have looked for a place, even if it's a field of a school, and then he crash lands there, instead of just continuing to go. But I think she looked for the place, and she was only seeing the forest, the trees, and that's the reason why she had to crash without the option of crash landing. Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this specific aircraft, it was manufactured back in 1996, meaning it's about 22 years old. And this specific type of aircraft only has a capacity of 9 passengers and a single pilot. Mheshimiwa, for this to be given a go-ahead to fly, whose responsibility is it to give a go-ahead? Who slept on their job and said, this aircraft is good to go, you can take off?
Okay, we have engineers like we, who give the certificate. The moment you do the servicing, there is a certificate which is signed by an engineer registered by Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. And therefore, I believe that by the time the plane was even leaving Nairobi, the engineers had already signed the certificate. But, you know, sometimes mechanical issues come up even when you are up in the air or when you land in Kitale. But nevertheless, the person who authorized the plane to leave in Kitale is the one who needs to take responsibility. And also we need to check the box, which normally stores every data, to know exactly what happened up there. What made the pilot not to crash land or to signal or something, and what made them to lose the signal. Because when we are up there, we are using the satellite. We don't use the normal network. And therefore, you're not supposed to lose control. You only lose control when you have crashed. But the moment we didn't have any signal from the pilot or from the crew that there's a problem, then that leaves a lot of questions to answer. Yeah.
Philip, this aircraft finally, well, it went missing on Tuesday.
Yeah.
When you first heard of the story and you've been following it until today, Friday, what was on your mind?
You know, let me first join Mheshimiwa in passing my condolences to the families of all those who are affected. It's really a tragic moment for them as well as the nation. On that particular day, you know, I traveled that road and I'd considered the option of flying. And, you know, I thought the weather was really bad along the road. And I thought for the small planes, probably the same would apply. But I'm not so much well-versed with piloting and all. But of course, I wished for the best. I hope it was, you know, the plane would be recovered and the passengers would be found safe. But now that it has happened and it's been confirmed that there was a crash, you know, it casts a gloom over our aviation industry. You know, it leaves so much, it leaves the usual passenger with so many questions over their heads. Our flight safe? You know, what can the government tell us about all of these things? Yes.
Mheshimiwa, as someone who is a professional in this industry, the disaster management of it, the rescue efforts, how would you grade it? Could we have done better?
We would have done better, but we ought not to blame a lot on the disaster management, because you see, the only way you would have done rescue is using helicopters. But you see, at the elephant tip of the Abadeas, it's very hard even to go with the helicopters, because the helicopter, the rotor of the helicopter can never scoop air up there at the Abadeas. And that's the reason why even this aircraft lost control, because the propeller in front of the engine, well, I believe it had a lot of difficulties to scoop air. And therefore, we need to improve on the disaster management, I agree. But at the end of the day, when you look at this situation, it was very, very tricky for even an helicopter to go, even a military one. And that's why they are saying here that it's a Kenya Airways passenger plane that spotted the wreckage when it's, I think, 35,000 feet above sea level. And therefore, what I would say here is that we need to look at the type of aircrafts we are using to fly. Like this Caravan C208, it's not advisable to use it when you are going for long distance, and also when you are going to pass over very big mountains, because at the end of the day, it has a single engine. So if it fails, you have no option.
That's it.
Yes, but you see, if you use like a Dash 8, which has 2 engines, then if one fails, you are able to use the other one. And then again, the engine is PT12 Pratt & Whitney, designed in Canada, but at the tail, at the nose end, it has a propeller. That propeller is the one that scoops the air, the slipstream behind, so that the aircraft moves forward. And therefore, if it's up there and the propeller develops a kind of a problem, then it leaves a lot of problems to the pilot and even to the crew.
All right, Michael?